Listen, you're not lost. You're changing skin right now, and once you see this, there's no unseeing it. The process has already started. That discomfort you've been feeling, that restlessness, that sense that something's got to give, that's not failure, that's growth screaming at you. Your old persona, the one you've been wearing for years, it's getting tight like a shoe 2 sizes too small, and your consciousness is literally bursting out of it. Here's the deal. This video is going to give you a map, clear language, and practical tools to cross this threshold with less fear and way more clarity. Because the point of no return? Yeah, you already crossed it. Your old identity is dissolving whether you fight it or not, and the only question left is, are you going to resist the death or learn to navigate it? This episode is a safe space to understand what's happening without confusing mysticism, just real-world examples and metaphors that actually make sense. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to recognize the signs, understand why your old self is unraveling, and learn how to stop sabotaging the birth of a more authentic way of living. Here's what I need from you. Take 3 deep breaths right now, close those other tabs, and give yourself permission to feel without having to explain it. You don't need to defend what's happening to you. You don't need to justify the shift. Just be here, fully present, and let's walk through this transformation together. What you're about to discover will change how you see yourself forever. You know what's wild? That moment when you realize you can't keep patching the old version of yourself anymore. It's like running outdated software. Sure, it still works, but it's slow, buggy, and honestly, it's holding you back from what you're actually capable of becoming. The real transformation doesn't happen when you add more to who you are. It happens when you're brave enough to let the old identity dissolve completely, like salt in water, so something authentic can take shape. Think about a tree in winter. It's not dying. It's strategically pulling all that life force back into its roots, getting ready to explode with new growth when spring hits. That's exactly what's happening to you right now. Your consciousness is doing this beautiful, terrifying thing where it's retracting from all those roles you've been playing. The successful one, the reliable one, the strong one. And for a while, you're just formless. And man, does that feel uncomfortable. But here's the thing. You can't refactor your entire operating system while it's still running full speed. I remember when I hit this phase a few years back, I'd built this whole identity around being the guy who had answers, who had it together. Then one Tuesday morning I woke up and couldn't fake it anymore. My body literally refused to perform. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before a meeting, hands shaking, and all I could think was, I don't even know who I am without this mask. That's ego death knocking, my friend. It doesn't ask permission and it doesn't wait for a convenient time. Now picture a surfer who's been riding the same board for years. It's comfortable, familiar, broken in just right. But then the tide shifts, the waves get bigger, and suddenly that old board isn't cutting it anymore. The surfer who clings to what worked before? They wipe out. But the one who's willing to switch boards mid-session, even if it feels awkward at first, they catch the wave of their life. You're at that board-switching moment right now, and your soul knows it even if your mind is still arguing. So here's the simple map. First, you dismantle the structures that no longer serve the authentic you. Then, and this is the part nobody warns you about, you stay in that shapeless space longer than feels safe. No rushing to rebuild. No grabbing the first new identity that shows up. You let the old you compost into nutrients for what's emerging. And finally, you reconfigure from the inside out, based on what's true now, not what worked back then. But here's where it gets really interesting. The signs that this transformation is actually working. They're way more subtle than you'd expect. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to show you the ones most people completely miss. Here's what nobody tells you about real transformation. The biggest signs aren't dramatic. They're not going to show up as some lightning bolt moment where angels sing and everything clicks. Nah, they're way more subtle. Like when you suddenly can't stand that playlist you've had on repeat for 3 years, or when that burger joint you loved now tastes off. Your consciousness is literally rewiring, and it's showing up first in these tiny, seemingly random shifts in taste. Last month I threw out half my wardrobe not because it was old, but because looking at those clothes felt like staring at a stranger's closet. Then there's this weird thing that happens with goals. Those big, shiny targets you've been chasing. They start feeling hollow, like you're holding a trophy that doesn't mean anything anymore. I had this moment where I was working toward a milestone I'd obsessed over for 2 years, and one morning I woke up and just didn't care. Not in a depressed way, but in a, why am I even doing this way? That's your authentic self tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, this goal, it belonged to the old identity, not the real you. It's unsettling as hell, but it's actually consciousness doing its job. You'll also notice this growing hunger for silence, not the lonely kind, but the rich, full kind. You start taking different routes through the city, not because they're faster, but because they feel better. Crowded places drain you faster. Small talk? It's like nails on a chalkboard. Meanwhile, a random Tuesday afternoon sitting by a window with nothing to do becomes the highlight of your week. I used to think I was becoming antisocial, but really, I was just becoming more selective about what I let into my energy field. That's not isolation, that's discernment. And here's a wild one. Time gets weird. Some days feel like they're moving at 2x speed. You blink and it's 9 p.m. Other days drag like you're wading through honey. You might get random chills when someone says something that hits true, or this full-body yes that you can't explain logically. Then there's the courage. Suddenly you're saying no to things without that crushing guilt, like your boundaries finally got a spine. Last week I turned down a project that would have been great for my career 2 years ago, and I didn't lose a single night of sleep over it. Old me would have spiraled for days. Oh, and pay attention to your stuff, like your actual physical belongings. You'll get this urge to purge objects that carry old stories, the gift from that ex, the award from that job, the books you kept because you thought you should read them. It's not Marie Kondo minimalism. It's your system clearing out energetic clutter so the new you has room to breathe. I donated 3 boxes of things last month that I'd been dragging through 4 different apartments. The second I let them go, I felt lighter. Not because of the space, but because I wasn't carrying those chapters anymore. Now these signs are powerful, but here's the thing. You need a framework to anchor this experience, or you'll second-guess yourself right back into the old cage. What's coming next are 3 analogies that'll lock this in so deep, you'll never forget what's really happening to you. Let me give you 3 images that'll make this whole ego death thing feel less like falling apart and more like leveling up. First one, kintsugi. It's this Japanese art where they take broken pottery and repair it with gold lacquer, not to hide the cracks, but to highlight them. The bowl that shattered, it becomes more valuable, more beautiful, more unique because of where it broke. That's exactly what's happening to your identity right now. Those parts of you that crumbled. They're not failures, they're the exact places where your authentic self is going to shine through like veins of gold. The transformation you're going through isn't diminishing you, it's revealing the masterpiece you've always been underneath the performance. Second analogy, intelligent pruning. You know how expert gardeners cut away perfectly healthy branches? Sounds crazy, right? But here's why they do it. Those branches are stealing nutrients from the fruit the tree's actually trying to produce. Your old habits, relationships, and commitments, a lot of them aren't bad. They're just siphoning energy away from your true purpose. I had this realization last year when I was saying yes to everything good. Good opportunities, good people, good causes. But good was killing great. When I finally pruned 3 major commitments that were objectively positive, my core work exploded in ways I couldn't have forced. Sometimes consciousness demands we sacrifice the good to make space for what's truly aligned. Third one, and this one hits different, understanding the tide. There's this idea that real strength means paddling harder, grinding more, pushing through resistance. But any surfer will tell you, that's amateur thinking. The pros? They learn to read the current. They rest when the tide's against them and ride hard when it shifts in their favor. Right now, if you're feeling like you can't push as hard as you used to, that's not weakness. That's your system recalibrating. You're not lazy, you're waiting for your tide. And when it comes, you'll move with 10 times less effort and 100 times more impact, because you'll be aligned with the flow instead of fighting it. I remember sitting on a beach in Portugal 2 summers ago watching this kid try to body surf. He'd sprint into every wave full force, getting absolutely demolished. Meanwhile, this older guy next to him barely moved, just waited, watched, and when the right wave came, he slipped into it like water into water. That image rewired something in me. I'd been the kid my whole life, throwing myself at everything. But transformation was teaching me to be the older guy, patient, discerning, and way more effective. That's what authentic living looks like. Less performance, more precision. These 3 images, the golden cracks, the intelligent cut, the aligned current, they're not just pretty metaphors. They're operational instructions from consciousness itself, showing you that what feels like falling apart is actually coming together in a truer form. But here's the real question. How do you actually live this out day to day without getting lost in the void? Because theory's beautiful, but you need practices that anchor you when the old identity's gone and the new one hasn't fully landed yet. What I'm about to share are 3 rituals that kept me sane during my own unraveling, and they're so simple, you'll wonder why nobody taught you this before. You're not just changing your mind. You're literally collapsing new realities into existence every single moment. See, in quantum physics, the observer affects the observed. Your consciousness isn't passive. It's the creative force that selects which version of reality materializes from the field of infinite possibilities. So when your old identity is dying, what's really happening is you're becoming a different observer, which means you're about to collapse entirely different outcomes. But here's the catch. If you don't have practices that anchor your new frequency, you'll keep defaulting back to the old observer, recreating the same tired reality on loop. First practice, the 90-second quantum window. When an intense emotion hits, anger, fear, shame, whatever, your body floods with neurochemicals that literally want to pull you back into the old identity's frequency. But here's the hack. That chemical wave only lasts 90 seconds if you don't feed it with a story. So instead of naming it, judging it, or acting on it, just watch it like you're observing a wave in the quantum field. Breathe. Count to 90. I do this every single time I feel that old prove yourself anxiety creeping in. I set a timer, close my eyes, and just witness the energy moving through me without collapsing it into the old narrative. By second 91, I'm back in choice. That's not suppression. That's consciousness choosing which reality to manifest. Second practice, the mask inventory. Here's the truth. You've been playing roles that aren't even yours. The overachiever, the peacekeeper, the tough one. These are probability clouds you keep collapsing because you learned they kept you safe. So grab a journal and write down 3 masks you wear on autopilot. Then, next to each one, write a micro-truth that dissolves it. For example, I wrote, the always available friend. And the truth? I resent half the conversations I say yes to. That one sentence shattered a 15-year pattern. When you speak what's true, you shift your frequency, and suddenly the quantum field starts responding to the authentic you, not the performance. Third practice, the empty backpack ritual. Every Sunday, I do this thing where I consciously choose one commitment, one physical object, and one habit to release for the week. It's not about minimalism. It's about energetic bandwidth. In quantum terms, every unaligned thing you're carrying is a frequency drag, a weight that keeps you vibrating at the old identity's level. Last Sunday, I dropped a networking group I'd been in for 2 years, donated a jacket I'd been saving, and stopped checking emails before 9 a.m. By Wednesday, I had a creative breakthrough I'd been chasing for months. Why? Because I freed up quantum space for new information to come through. You can't download the new without deleting the old. These 3 practices aren't just habits, they're quantum tools. They train your consciousness to stop reflexively collapsing back into who you were and start intentionally manifesting who you're becoming. Every time you pause in that 90-second window, you're choosing presence over pattern. Every mask you dissolve, you're reclaiming energy. Every release in your Sunday ritual, you're signaling to the field, I'm ready for the new. And here's where this gets deeply personal, because I can give you all the quantum theory and all the practices in the world, but until you hear someone's real story of walking through this fire, it stays abstract. So let me take you into 4 raw moments from my own ego death, the kind of scenes I don't usually share. Because you need to know what this actually looks like when the veil drops and everything you thought you were just stops working. It was a Thursday morning and I was about to record a video I'd scripted perfectly, talking about manifestation, about how to quantum jump, all that stuff I'd been teaching for years. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Not nerves. This was different. It was like my throat had a lock on it and some deeper part of me was holding the key hostage. My hands started trembling, not from fear, but from this overwhelming knowing that I couldn't perform this version of myself anymore. The smell of coffee going cold on my desk, the cursor blinking on the script, the morning light hitting my face, and this crushing realization that the identity I'd built as the guy who has it figured out was collapsing in real time. That's when ego death stopped being a concept and became a physical event I couldn't negotiate my way out of. About 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in my car at 2 a.m. in an empty parking lot, and I'm done fighting. I'd spent 14 days trying to fix myself back to normal, meditating harder, journaling more, watching my old videos trying to remember who I was. But that night, something broke open. I literally said out loud, I don't know who I am anymore, and I'm not going to pretend I do. The moment I stopped resisting the void, the quantum field shifted. It's like I'd been holding my breath underwater, and I finally let myself sink. And in that surrender, there was this bizarre peace, not happiness but alignment. I wasn't collapsing the old reality anymore, which meant space opened up for something truer to emerge. That empty parking lot became my quantum zero point, the place where all possibilities existed because I finally wasn't forcing one. 3 weeks in, I'm at a cafe I'd never been to before, took a random left turn on a walk because the usual route felt wrong. I'm sitting there not doing anything, just existing, and this woman at the next table is talking about how she quit her corporate job to become a ceramics artist. She said something I'll never forget. I had to become nobody before I could become who I actually am. Chills ran through my entire body, that full body yes that you can't fake. It wasn't the words themselves, it was the frequency match. The universe was confirming through her mouth that I was on the right path. 2 days later, a message came through from someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, asking if I'd co-create a project that aligned perfectly with where my consciousness was moving. That's how the quantum field works. When you stop broadcasting the old signal, the new synchronicities can finally find you. 6 months later, here's what's different, and I mean tangibly, measurably different. My decision-making time dropped from days to minutes because I'm not running choices through, what will this look like anymore? I'm checking, does this feel true right now? My content shifted from performance to transmission, and ironically, it's resonating deeper than anything I forced before. I lost 3 business relationships that were built on the old identity, but I gained 2 that feel like actual partnerships, not transactions. My sleep improved because I'm not carrying the exhaustion of being someone I'm not. And here's the wildest part. I'm making less safe choices and experiencing more flow, more resources showing up, more opportunities that feel aligned. The quantum field rewards authenticity, not hustle. That's not spiritual fluff. That's measurable change in my physical reality because I became a different observer. So yeah, those 4 scenes. The voice that failed, the 2 a.m. surrender, the cafe synchronicity, the tangible shifts. That's what ego death actually looks like when you stop watching from the sidelines and start living it. It's messy, it's non-linear, and it doesn't care about your timeline. But what comes after? That's where the real game begins. Because once the old identity dies and the authentic you starts running the show, everything changes. And I mean everything. The way you make decisions, the way you relate to people, the way you show up in your work, even the way you take care of yourself. It all shifts from performance mode to presence mode. And what I'm about to show you next is how to navigate that new territory without slipping back into the old operating system. Here's where everything flips. Once your old identity dies, and you're operating from authentic consciousness, decisions become almost ridiculously simple. You're no longer running every choice through this exhausting filter of, how will this look, or what will people think, or does this prove I'm worthy? Instead, you're just checking in with what's true right now, in this quantum moment. Last month, I got offered a speaking gig that old me would have killed for. Big stage, great pay, perfect for the ego. But when I tuned in, my body was a hard no. So I said no in about 30 seconds. No spiraling, no second guessing. The new game isn't about looking successful. It's about being aligned. And alignment moves fast because it doesn't need to convince anyone, not even you. Your relationships transform too, and this one's huge. The old identity needed an audience. People to witness the performance, to validate the character you were playing. But when you shift into presence, relationships stop being a stage and become actual partnerships. You're not managing how you're perceived anymore. You're just there. Real, unfiltered, sometimes awkward but deeply honest. I've watched friendships that were built on what we do together either dissolve or deepen into who we actually are together. Some people can't handle the authentic you because they were attached to the mask. And you know what? That's okay. The quantum field clears out mismatched frequencies to make room for resonance. It's not loss. It's recalibration. Then there's your work, and this shift is wild. Work stops being this battleground where you prove your value and becomes a laboratory where you contribute your gift. The energy's completely different. Old identity was always asking, am I good enough? Am I doing enough? Do they see how hard I'm working? But authentic consciousness just shows up and asks, what wants to come through me today? I used to spend hours agonizing over content, trying to make it perfect, impressive, undeniable. Now, I create from overflow, from genuine curiosity, from what's alive in me, and ironically, it lands harder because there's no performance blocking the transmission. When you stop trying to prove something, your work becomes medicine instead of a monument to your ego. And here's one most people miss. Self-care stops being this reward you earn after grinding and becomes the foundation everything else is built on. Old, you treated your body like a machine, push it hard, then treat yourself with a massage or a vacation. But when you're living from presence, you realize your physical vessel is the antenna for consciousness, for quantum information, for creative downloads. So rest isn't laziness, it's maintenance. Saying no isn't selfish, it's protection of your frequency. Eating well, moving intentionally, guarding your energy. These aren't indulgences, they're prerequisites. I started treating my body like sacred technology, and my capacity for clarity, creativity, and manifestation tripled. Not because I hustled more, but because I honored the instrument. So this new game, this shift from performance to presence, it's not about becoming perfect or enlightened or untouchable. It's about becoming real. And real is magnetic in ways performance never was. Real makes faster decisions, builds deeper connections, creates from authenticity, and sustains itself without burnout. The old identity was exhausting because it was constantly performing for an audience that was never fully satisfied. But this is sustainable because you're not pretending anymore. You're just being. And the quantum field responds to that frequency like a match to oxygen. But here's the real question. Now that you've heard all of this, now that you can feel the truth of it resonating in your body, what are you actually going to do with it? Because knowing is nothing without application. And application is where transformation becomes your lived reality. So here's what I need you to hear. Don't waste another second trying to fix the old mask. That's over. Instead, choose to learn how to breathe without it. Let the new form be born from the space you've courageously opened. If today feels empty, remember this. The earth rests before it blooms, and the silence between musical notes is what allows the melody to exist. You're not broken, you're not behind, and you're definitely not late. You're at the exact moment of your transformation, right on time for your own becoming. This ego death, this identity shift, it's not the end of you. It's the beginning of the authentic you. All right, here's your move. Down in the comments, I want you to write these 6 words. I allow the end of what I am not. That's your commitment, your quantum declaration to the field. Then, when you feel that first sign of alignment this week, and you will, come back and write, I am born again. Watch what happens when you speak your transformation into existence. Now here's your 72-hour micro-challenge. Practice that 90-second window once a day when emotion hits, and consciously drop one habit that no longer matches who you're becoming. Just one. If this video resonated with your consciousness, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of what's next, if you're reading this right now, the universe wanted you here in this exact moment. Click the video on your screen to understand why that's not coincidence, it's alignment calling you forward.